What's up, guys? It is the Bad Wolf, your international man of mystery and the man in black. Let's get going. All right. So, I was reached out to once again by a law enforcer. I usually get one or two a month, believe it or not. Um, and it's always interesting. Like the last guy, I know he watched the video, so to you, good brother. Um, he was in his patrol car, had his uniform on, geared up, all that good jazz, and he had watched enough of the videos, to basically have about 88 to 90% of everything he needed to have done. And in his particular case, he wanted to gift his compensation to a private entity for tax avoidance purposes, which he has the legal right to do per the IRS, even for U.S. citizens. So, in speaking with him and another individual, and actually I've talked about this multiple times over the years to numerous law enforcement and certain other individuals and certain three-letter agencies, but we'll leave that alone for now because I know you guys like to watch my videos too. So, hello, everybody in the back rooms that I'll never be invited to. Put your thinking caps on. It's time to learn. So, yes, all U.S. citizens have the ability in every walk of life to avoid taxes if done properly under 25.1.1.3.3 per the IRS manual code, the IRM, known as tax avoidance. I've given you guys enough pieces directly. We've talked about it, and we do consultations to make sure you guys are doing it right. But yes, so what came out of speaking with these individuals is that, and I still get this all the time, so that's why I'm going to address it in this video. So one, yes, you guys can do tax avoidance. Years ago, I was not fully informed on certain tax avoidance strategies. Generally, you are, in fact, 100,000 cajillion percent taxable. But if you know how to create your entity, gift it your compensation properly, then yes, that compensation will be received by the tax exempt entity as a free will offering. See, your money, when your compensation, before it becomes income, it's not income until it hits something that's taxable, which generally is the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. When you're in public capacity as a police officer or elected official or CDL or anything like that where you need a license or you're working directly with the public or some of us private citizens, you are taxable. The law, it literally states that. And here's the mind bender. The reason why you're taxable is because legally you are under FARA and considered foreign to the United States, though you are in the family. It's like if I married your sister, but at the house, all of the Johnsons don't have to pay, but I married your sister, so I'm an honorary Johnson, but my last name still yet is Lovett. But I'm staying at the house, or I'm at the family function. I'm in the family. If the Smiths bring their asses over here, we finna get bout it. We finna go duke up or whatever. But there's a fee to be within there that anybody without the name Johnson, even if you're part of the family, must pay. So when a normal U.S. national becomes a CDL or an officer or a public official or whatever else, you're signing all the paperwork, and what they're doing to you in this fine print is there's one document in there that's part of the FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, okay, or agreement. You have to sign that. When you sign that, you're saying that I agree to pay taxes because I'm going into my 14th Amendment U.S. citizen status, and that status is taxable. And that's because we as nationals, so the same you, but the private part of you is like saying, well, anybody who's in our country foreign doing business and making X amount of dollars, they need to pay us for using our roads. We're already paying you guys to watch the streets for, ruffians and whatever. So you guys have to pay taxes. the national is tax exempt. So it's a little weird when you, as a tax exempt national, then make yourself, by means of your job through legal jurisdiction and paperwork and code, then become taxable. You're literally regurgitating your own stuff. One part of you is saying, hey, tax those foreign people who are operating like they're Americans, but they're U.S. citizens, so they're in the family, but they're a little bit different. And then now this part of you is like, well, yeah, but I don't want to be taxed. This sucks, but everybody gets taxed, so I guess I have to do it. Because you're an agent of the state and the government. Whoa, my computer's freaking out, man. They must be listening to my Zoom. One moment, please. Oh, damn, I was just getting ready to do the Bruce Lee. Anyway. All right. So with that being said, yes, everybody can do it. But the heart of this video, okay, because I've already talked about that part in the other thing, so exit stage left, is I get all these guys, police officers, especially whenever else, Wolf, can we do some of these things? Well, yes, almost all of them you guys can do if you know how to do them right. But the bigger part is they ask, can I be a national? Yes, because you already are. The regular average person is already a national. Just because you become a police officer or a judge or an attorney or a lawyer or CDL, you already are. You are the last dragon. You possess the power of the globe. I don't know what's draining my resources today, but let me check. I don't know, something is. All right, anyway, so yeah, so you guys, we're all born. If you're born here in the United States or you naturalize, you are both. You get both. Just because you're a police officer and that's your whole thing all day, all time, it only means that when you're in public capacity, you have to be a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, period, non-negotiable. The position requires it by law. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're a dick, then that's just because you're a dick. But if you're not, then you're cool. If you're a cop and you're watching my shit, then you're definitely cool. Because a lot of them don't want you to watch this shit. Why? Because they don't want you guys communicating this information to other people. Your bosses who watch me more than you guys do, know all about this stuff. And their bosses above them, the board members, they absolutely. But they don't want you to know this because this stuff takes money away from them. They don't want you being tax exempt because it takes money from them. They don't want you listening to people like me. And I'm not saying all the people on YouTube are me by no means. Okay, we already established, where my IQ is, what court cases I've won, all that good jazz. All right, hundreds at this point. Personally, over 30. Well, 23 to 30 plus, somewhere in there. I lost count after all these years. I don't even care anymore. But hundreds over the years of doing this for people. So kind of know what I'm doing when the Department of State watches my videos and corrects their codes. Cornell Law, their writers watch my show. They correct the codes. They update the passport application based on some things that I've said and some other things that they've done. Yeah. Some of us study this stuff more than the people who host this stuff. I live this life. Right to travel is a fact and it is a right and it is protected. Okay? But that doesn't mean that somebody should just do right to travel and then try to speed around and be like, I'm a national. Look at me. I can do whatever I want. No. Because the cops still have a duty out there to protect the peace and the public. And if you're endangering that, then you're a dumbass. And they will arrest you. You are then waiving your rights. Till then, you're absolutely right. It is a federal offense for a police officer to pull over a national just because they have a private plate. They're interfering with interstate commerce. That is a federal offense, whether you know it or not. And if somebody is smart like me, they can sue you on your public side and your private side. You can think that qualified immunity is going to protect you. Now, when it comes to a federal offense, a normal citizen's a little bit different. Who's just driving? You're agreeing to being in their program. All right, give it a second. It's acting all weird again. Should I do the Bruce Lee? Oh, see, doesn't like Bruce Lee. Every time I get ready, that's gonna be my thing. Every time it starts to jazz up, I'm just gonna do the Bruce Lee and make it stop, I guess. Or the COINTELPRO, program jumps into my Zoom and starts recording. That might be what it is. Well, I mean, you know, such programs don't exist. All right, so yeah, it's a federal offense for an officer to do that, and you're not protected completely by qualified immunity when it comes to a federal offense against a national's rights. But you are protected by when it's a citizen, because a citizen is a driver and they are a willing member. The state's police cannot override federal law, cannot override constitutional law, private law, and the freedoms, rights, and um, liberties of an American. It may sound kind of funny. It's true. It's just because we don't use those things on a normal daily basis, nor does the average cop hear about those things. See, actually, in some ways, I actually feel sorry for some police officers because their legal department and their um, HR department are not giving them the information on this stuff. So most of these officers, they think they're right to bother people or just pull them over because most people don't sue. Those are absolutely lawsuits, especially for private citizens. Now, from what I've heard from my people, is that they're starting to educate them properly with new materials, bulletins, the flyers. So things are changing. But anyway, so other people were like military people. They were also asking me, can they do these things? Absolutely. But when you're in the military and you're in active duty, you are a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. But you still have your national side. Matter of fact, as a police officer, as a military, as a whoever, postal worker, and whatnot, you were born a national. Matter of fact, you had to be a national in order to proclaim your U.S. citizen side to operate and be in the military or a police officer. You had to be that first. You have both under 8 U.S.C. 1401A. You have both. If you're born in Florida, you're Floridian, New York, New Yorker, Wisconsin, Wisconsinite, California, Californian, GPO Style Manual, Section 5.22 and 5.23. The government recognizes this, which is funny when some government agencies try to ignore or not recognize this. Why? Who are you guys really working for? I don't understand why some police, some military, some government agencies don't want to recognize the national. Well, actually, I do know, which is because um, we are your boss from the private side. And you don't want to wake up other nationals and start having the boss wake up. I get it. And also, you make less money. I get it. And also, you have less control. I get it. I'm not here to tear down the system. And there's always going to be people who want to be under that control and that rule of thumb. I get it. Bruce Lee. Oh, I didn't work that time. All right. Gotta wait for a second. All right. And we're back. All right. So, absolutely. Once again, that's probably why this is happening so much, is because they probably don't want me to let police officers and military and other agents out there of the states of the government to know the truth is that y'all are nationals as well. You're it's just postponed or pending or in a pause when you're in active capacity or duty. Now, that doesn't mean that you guys can go to your W 4 and then just check exempt. Can't do that because you are not exempt in active duty. All right, and we're back. Man, they're whamping me today. I don't like this video. So, yes, you are in fact nationals when you're off duty, and you do owe a duty to your country and fellow nationals. This is why they don't want you guys to know that, because they believe that it may conflict with your thought process, with your job, with your performance in the duty thereof. Shouldn't. Just means that when you recognize somebody doing something private, like private trust or a right to travel, and they have everything correct. And I've actually had officers ask, Wolf, like, teach me what I should be looking for if these guys are doing it correct. And I say, well, it's in the videos. The entity must be registered, the vehicle must be registered in the entity. The plates must have the name of the entity that's registered to on the top of the plates. Um, it should have, the plates should look different from the states. They should be unique. And as long as they're abiding by the general rules of the road, they're good to go. And if you run the name of the entity that owns the vehicle and it doesn't come back as a registered entity to the state, which is in your jurisdiction, then they're good. If they're doing something stupid, then arrest them. Same thing as normal. But remember, if they are a national, there really should be either harm or destruction, or they're endangering, which would be speeding. Okay, to a certain extent. Otherwise, the officer can get into trouble, because if the national isn't doing something like that, then there is no RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion they've committed a crime, and then you're denying them of their rights. And ignorance of the law, my good individuals out there, for the most part, anybody wise, if you're going to sue, you don't go after the police officers. You go after the police station. But move as you see fit. I'm just trying to balance the playing field for both sides. And hell, I've helped some police officers, like I said, with their wives, not in that kind of way, some just legal stuff. I've helped them with their pay, I've helped them with securing their assets to protect themselves from lawsuits and liabilities. Like I said, if you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're a dick in any whatever, well, well, then you are what you are. So don't be a dick, is what I'm trying to say. All right. So this still applies even if you're getting the passport. This applies with almost everything we show here. Nearly everything we show as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, if you're in that capacity, you can do. You just cannot do things like, let's say, an officer can't do, you know, well, that would even be stupid to say, but let's say like an officer want to do right to travel in his patrol car. Well, it's not his car, and that is public property. Okay, so well, technically it's not public property. Technically, it's actually private property owned by an entity that operates in the public under as a municipality under the state. Some of them operate independently of the state, though. So it's really not public property, but they service the public. But if you notice on their cars and things, it doesn't say any word about America. You might see U.S., United States on some of the paperwork. Generally, you'll see state of on there. You won't see, say, like Minnesota State. You'll see state of Minnesota, the corporation. You won't see America because they're operating under the state of, and the state ofs are operating under the U.C.C. And though they're under the federal jurisdiction, they're not operating as an American entity, which means they're actually foreign to the United States of America. You also will not see to serve and protect or to punish, to sever and punish. Some of them, the bad ones, of course. Um, so there's a jurisdictional difference. So a lot of police officers, they believe they're operating for the best benefit of America. No. See, police actually comes from the word policy enforcers, police, policy. You're enforcing the policies of the state, and that state's a for-profit corporation. All that they did is they went to the government to get a EIN to operate to do business. And the government said, we are only going to recognize these 50 states, these territories. So that's what they're doing. That doesn't mean that the individuals per se are not American. They're still American in the American family, but they're the one that capacity is one where they are not intrinsically American, but they are U.S. citizens, but damn near synonymous. So they're in the family, just a little bit different. And that's why you won't see in any of these courthouses within the courtrooms or on the police or anywhere in there mentioning the Constitution because you're not getting your constitutional rights. Same thing with family law, family court, children's law, all that stuff. That's all for corporations, legal persons, legal entities, businesses. It's not for the living national, the private citizen. It's not. Those are two different laws, just like there's public law and private law. Which one, affects you? Depends on what capacity you're in. I operate most of my life under private law. Now, to a regular officer or military or law enforcement agency, they're like, well, we don't recognize private law. Yeah, you do, because what they're doing is actually private law too. See, they form their own bubble, and those people who resonate in that bubble or agree to be that 14th Amendment U.S. citizens can join. I can't just say, well, I'm operating under federal, police, this, that law, and la 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 la. I'm not a member of theirs unless I become one of them. Now I'm subject to their rules and regulations, their law, their codes. So that means that it's private, but they can't call it private. And it's so big and affects so many, it's called public. So think of it this way. If somebody from Australia came here and they just walked down the street and said, great, crikey, I'm a part of the American public. I'm an American now. Can they do that and it be factual? No. They have to naturalize. Once they naturalize, then they get U.S. citizenship and nationality. Then they've plugged into that group, that bubble, and their rights, laws, privileges, benefits, etc. So, yes, to answer the question, cops, military, postal, whatever, yes, you guys are nationals, and you are so when you're in private capacity. And a majority of this information you can do. And a majority of this information they're not going to share with you at your agency, at your municipality, at the police station, or the substation. This is a need to know thing. This is the secrets that they're keeping from you guys. Have officers approached me on the street and talked about this? Some know who I am, some don't. I've got friends who are cops. I see lots of them all the time. A lot of them are cool. At least the ones that know me are cool. At least they act cool with me. I don't know, whatever. And then there's the ones who are just holding the fort and want to mean mug you and whatever else because they think you're the bad guy. Well, some of you guys better check what jurisdictional side you're really on, because to war against an American is to war against the United States of America. And some of those acts are treasonous. Treason is nothing to play with. Treason, sedition, there's all kind of goodies out there. And now that the American people are waking up, there's going to be a whole lot more lawsuits. So the way I look at it at this point, if you're national and you know who and what you are, and you're doing things right, the moment your rights are infringed, you should be filing $1 million lawsuits like that. That's the only way that things are going to change. If everybody can get along, we're good. There's bad police, there's bad citizens. Why? Because some people are just bad. that's what it is. So thank God for the good cops out there. Otherwise, certain people like myself would have to handle business on a daily basis. So it is a hard job. I know. I was going to become a cop and a federal agent because they like it when you're smart. That's why they watch my videos. With that being said, guys, go out there, be non-belligerents, non-combatants, and yeah, if you guys had, I guess some of the last things would be like, certain people are like, well, what about my benefits and whatever else? Your benefits are generally taxable because all your entire that's what it was. I was talking with somebody who was retired military, and I said, yeah, those things are generally taxable because your name in their system is a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. You would have to use a workaround to try to get them untaxed. And I don't know enough as far as how the system would react to you through a free will offering your benefits. I guess they have to be paid out though. So your benefits should be able to be gifted, but I'm not at that point, so I can't give you legal advice. All I can tell you is to ask questions before jumping or demanding anything if you're going to do such. Okay? Which is the same advice I gave to this particular person in the private. But a lot of your other stuff, that's pretty much easy peasy. Okay? So that's it, guys. Take care. Appreciate you guys watching this video. Be safe out there, all of you guys, citizens and law enforcement alike. The world is a crazy changing place. Don't let them divide us because it's all about divide and conquer. Remember who you are at the end of the day. And everybody at some point in time will meet their maker, whether you believe it or not. And there might be hell to pay for your actions. As the mafia say, nobody's untouchable. You might be invisible today, but you're not tomorrow. You may think that you're changing the devil, but you might find out the devil's changing you. May whatever God you believe in have mercy on your soul. I'll talk to you later.